Okay, so I'm going to do a bit of a walkthrough of the arena game that I've been building over the past little while. To start off, we used Invector, which is in the asset store for Unity, and that is a basic melee controller. It comes with an animator that has. It didn't have throw. I added in throw, and I added in uh, unarmed jump attacks, and there will be jump and crouch attacks for weapons as well. But yeah, they didn't have crouch attacks and they didn't have jump attacks, so I had to add that in because honestly, I feel like a melee fighter without jump and crouch is kind of weak. So it has a pretty complex set of rules here. Equip IDs to change the way that things are working, like what is it, sword attack here. It has the attack ID, so it tells you what attack type you're doing. There's a lot of different things here, and they all tend to influence. There's a very large relationship between the C# code and the animator. So going back to Ali, there's a third person controller. It also has like a melee input controller, which handles switching between controller and like a console controller and keyboard, as well as generic actions, which I use for things like picking up or opening. Well, doors are automatic, but right now I'm only using it for picking up objects. Um, I'm not really using this right now because we changed the way that it's flowing, and I don't think we're going to have a lot of moving back and forth between the scenes anymore. But I had that originally to handle spawning in the right place when you enter a shop or something like that. Rigid body and capsule collider are obvious. And the melee manager handles all the combat. So this handles like who you can damage and all this other stuff. It's all pretty straightforward stuff, and you can find it in the Invector tutorials. But the stuff that I built down here is this character assistant, and then various other things that handle other parts. So there's the buff manager that handles. Um, it looks inside your items and sees whether you're wearing any armor, and if you're wearing any armor, then it adds that to your defense. It also has other attributes that you can add. So like if you're wearing an outfit that gives you a bonus to agility or bonus to speed or bonus to damage. That's also possible. There could also be weapons that do the same thing, um, and that's pretty simple. A simple bit of code. And then there's the character throw controller, which that got a little bit more complicated, and there's actually a few things here that we're not using anymore because I originally wanted it to. I really wanted them to be able to drag a rag doll around and then throw that at other enemies, but that didn't work out because rag dolls are kind of random, and don't give a consistent feel. So the actual plan was that we were going to continue working on this once we had created an animated drag um, functionality, and that way you could kill some of the enemies and then throw them at other enemies, which is one of the features that we really wanted in our game. But for now, this only works with if you look inside the scene. There's these beehives sitting on top of these towers, and when I go near them, I can pick them up and I can throw them at things. Now, this big bear here, I'm going to talk a little bit about a few other things going on in this scene. There's a lot going on in this scene. This big bear here, he's very damaging. He's slow moving, and he gets angry whenever anything's in his way. So he's going to destroy this brazier here, basically on spawn. Not He's not programmed to. What he's programmed to do is to look in front of him and see if there's a breakable object. So we have a lot of breakable dynamic objects in our game, and he's going to see that it's breakable, and then he's going to smash it. He'll also do the same thing for these pillars that are over here because those pillars are also breakable and they get in his way. So the idea was that we wanted him to charge through um, even an entire maze just to get at the player and to give it this feel of like stuff blowing up behind you as you're running away from him. Um, and then also this entire arena. So okay, these so he has an AI that the main thing that's a big thing for the big bear is that he can't stand the breakables and he breaks them all. The little guys, on the other hand, can get scared very easily, especially if there's no big bear around. But if they get injured at all, they'll run to the closest healing point, and sometimes they'll run to behind the big bear as their healing point. And the thing about that is that can often end up with them getting killed if they run the wrong way, but they're too dumb to know that. So I actually wanted that to be the case where they run away from the player but end up getting killed and trying to save themselves. Um, but yeah, okay, and this entire arena. So the entire arena here was built in Maya by my partner, but he's not necessarily very good at the C# code. So what I did was I created. Um, I'm just going to disable the one that's in here right now. So this is just the everything but the arena. I created a editor that creates structures. So what this thing does is you drag in a we created a naming convention for the models that he creates, and he makes groups inside of Maya that then get translated by my system. But essentially, when you're uh, all these naming conventions will take the stuff that's in the ground section and it'll make it the ground. It'll take the stuff that's in the structure section and it'll make it act like ground. So like for example, sorry, like just have box colliders or mesh colliders, depending on what kind it is. But the ground stuff, it has to have the nav mesh applied for it. 3 different nav meshes, one for each type of enemy. Um, actually, I should show you. You can kind of see it without me making a new one, but if I go into here, it's kind of messy, but where's ground? Ground. So yeah, you see on ground, there's actually 3 nav meshes for 3 types. There's a humanoid-sized enemy, there's a small enemy, and there's the huge enemy, and they all have different things. They can only go certain places. And the big bear, for example, will just charge right over everything and won't even try to avoid these traps. The little guys won't avoid them because they're too dumb, but then the humanoid guys are actually kind of smart, and so they'll know to avoid them. So yeah, it automatically creates this nav mesh so that he doesn't have to do that. He can create new structures and not have to worry about figuring out how to do nav meshes, because nav meshes aren't easy for most people to do, and doing it for getting a 3D modeler to do it is going to be a huge pain in the ass. So let me just load up one of my models here, and where are they? Nope. Here we go. So I think the newest one is this guy. Yeah, so this created a new nav mesh. If we look inside of it, it should be identical. It's missing the stuff. I added those pillars in the middle just because I wanted to have extra things for him to bash. But yeah, that creates this nav mesh for the 3 different things. It actually does it dynamically, so if I add a new agent type, it'll automatically do another nav mesh for that agent without me having to ask for it. And you can see that it includes layers such as breakables and traps and stuff. It's all very changes depending on which one it's building it for. So yeah, that's the basic construction of the scene, and I'll talk a little bit about the actual gameplay in my next video.